What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Redneck Ingenuity. Today we're out in the woods collecting maple syrup. In today's video, we're going to go over how to set taps, how we collect taps, and we're going to do that with Jason here. He's a local expert, as I like to say. And he's going to show us the ropes today. So, Jason.
Hello, everyone. We're out here in Xenia, Ohio, collecting some maple sap. Today is February 9th. The temperature is probably about 50 degrees this morning. It feels kind of nice. We've got, what you'll see here eventually is 101 taps in 89 trees. We're running 3/16 taps and tubing, and everything's running in a downhill fashion, about 15 foot of drop, all running to a centralized location for a storage tote that we pump up and take back to the shack.
Okay, so how do you decide when to start collecting sap?
So everything's weather predicated. You're looking at, you want temperatures in the evenings or overnight that are below freezing, and then during the day you want the temperatures to rise back up. What happens is the tree will suck the water from the root system at night when it's freezing, and the water will go to the top of the tree and supply nutrients. When it does that, during the day, what happens is it gets hot and wants to push that nutrients and push that water back, thus collecting a little bit of the sugar when it pushes it back down, and we drill the hole in it, collecting the water. Okay. So that's how we want to know, like, it's this time, typically every year, late winter, early spring, is what you're looking for, and you're looking for that fluctuation in temperature.
Okay. Now, and then do you just tap any tree, or?
No, so we are tapping primarily sugar maples. There's a few red, a handful of silvers in here, but predominantly sugar maples in these woods. Now, this time of year, you can also tap walnut trees. I want to say you can tap the sycamores, maybe even the birch trees, but
okay.
But yeah, predominantly around here is maple.
Okay. Well, why don't we tap a tree and show everybody how we can do that.
Perfect. So here's a tap hole that sealed itself over from the year previous, 2 years ago maybe. We always tell people, or we like to go at least a hand. So any kind of hand away from it. We're gonna go here. We're gonna angle this just a hair bit. You wanna get closer, and there you go. You only need to go about 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch in. And there you go. See it dripping? This is an old style spile. And a hook, and then we put a metal bucket underneath it. Voila.
So what's the difference between this setup and how you have the rest of them?
So this is very old setup. The tap, the hole, everything's open. You get air that comes into it. It seals up a lot faster. The metal bucket you actually have to take and empty into a container before you get into your evaporator. The difference with ours is the tubing and the tap, to where this is last year's setup. The tap's now only 3/16 as opposed to something that's a 7/16 hole. So it's a less injury to the tree. Not to mention that there's no air that's going to get in the system. Like you saw with the rest of the tubing system, it runs from one end all the way down to the bottom.
And how small of a tree is too small?
That's too small. That is way too small. We like 6 inches. 8 inches is preferable before you start tapping it, and anything above that or bigger than that is what we like to do. You're too small. It's just, you're going to stunt the growth of the tree. You're going to hurt the tree.
Gotcha.
In my opinion. So like here's this year's run. Here's your split. Last year's there. This year's all this. Everything you see over there. There's a total of like five or 6 runs that come down to 3 lines that end up in the tank down there. We've got approximately 15 foot of drop, anywhere from 12. I want to say that side's more like 12 foot of drop. This side's more like 18, so you're about 15 average feet of drop. When you get 15 average feet of drop, then you pull a natural vacuum, or so they say you pull a natural vacuum.
So it actually sucks the sap out of the tree.
Well, I actually want to suck upwards as well as pull downward, correct? From what we've learned. So here you can see, like today we're pulling about, what was that, about 16 and a half, 17 inches of mercury.
That's back.
Yep. And it's running a little bit. You can see the bubble. They're running slow, it's not warmed up yet. And it didn't get very cold last night. But you can see it's coming out of there. Running down. And then running. So that whole line's full.
Okay.
They all start up there, right around the field edge. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth over here. And then they all converge all down to here, down to the collection tank itself. And then we have a pump down here at the collection tank, and we pump it straight up to the edge of the field in the back of the side-by-side, and then take it up.
Here is the collection tank. And then the pump, and the hose and everything, that's the pump. Then here's the manifold that all the trees run down those 3 tubes, like you said earlier. And that's the exciting collection tank. Okay, so this is how they pump the sap up to the transfer tank, to which they drive the Kubota or whatever it is to the sugar shack, and then they pump out of this tank to the evaporator or bucket it, depending on which method they're using. Now that we got the sap collected, let's head into the sugar shack.
So this is our evaporator. We bought this from Smoky Lake. They're out of Wisconsin. We really liked them. They have great customer service, so if you ever have to go through anybody, we recommend Smoky Lake. Plug. The way this works is this is the warming pan. This holds approximately 15-20 gallons. We put the raw, it's hot. We put the raw sap in the back here. It travels from the holding warming pan into the drop flue pan via the valve here. Runs into this chamber. Down inside of there, there's fingers that hang down that the fire licks through, increasing surface area and boil rate. It travels through the pan via the density of the sugar, which actually pushes it from raw sap to syrup. Pushes it through there, comes out the side, comes into the syrup pan itself, where it travels the same direction. And then there's the draw-off setup over here. There's a temperature probe that typically sits here, runs to a control box on the wall, which controls the auto draw-off system. We set it for 219 degrees. The temperature in the pan of the syrup gets to 219, it automatically draws it off. When it drops the temperature, I think it's like a degree or 2, then it shuts it, and you're good to go. We filter it from the draw-off area here. It goes through a pre-filter, very similar, and then an Orlon cone filter, and then from that, then we use a actual vacuum filter that we run DE and the syrup in, mix it into a slurry, runs into the tank, and out of the tank we bottle it. So the arch itself, the firebox is here. We've loaded about every 7 minutes. We pack it as tight as we can, running the wood in a crisscross pattern to help airflow get up and through there. It runs in and up, forcing the flame to the top of the pan and then up out the chimney. Your foam's building up, that's a lot of your minerals and stuff that's coming up. All we do is use a surfactant, run it across, and then it'll drop the bubbles so you don't have them coming up all over the place.
5. Maybe if you crack it, it'll push it.
How thick that bad boy is.
It's already darker, isn't it?
Yep. Got it.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for today's episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. about the neat process of collecting sap and making maple sugar. I'll be sure to link all their information down in the comments below. Other than that, comment, share, like, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next Redneck Ingenuity.